She's a community epidemiologist for the nonprofit organization, the Association of Clinical Trial Services, better known as TACS, and she is also a friend of Equal Hope. She's been on a radio show on WVON 1690, and she's also been on CAN TV before in the past.
Yes.
So she isn't a stranger to CAN TV and the radio.
Not at all.
For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, welcome, and thanks for joining us today. For those who aren't familiar with Equal Hope, we are a nonprofit organization in Chicago whose mission is to help eliminate health disparities in Chicago. Among our services are free mammograms, free cervical cancer screenings, offering assistance with vaccine appointments, such as the COVID-19 vaccine and HPV vaccine. We also link people to medical homes for free. You can check us out on equalhope.org. So today, we will be talking about COVID-19 and the Black community.
Yes.
Although the current COVID-19 crisis is felt globally, at the local level, COVID-19 has disproportionately affected poor, highly segregated Black communities in Chicago. Black people constituted 70% of early COVID-19 deaths, despite composing only 30% of the population. And deaths continue to cluster neighborhoods where more than 90% of the residents are Black. So let's begin our discussion. Sista Yaa, can you tell us about the current COVID-19 status in Chicago?
Yes, Leilani. We're not going to go into all of mine, but just as a disclaimer, making sure that people know that these are my opinions and that this is more about what TACS is about, the Association of Clinical Trial Services, not representing anybody else. And more specifically, again, these are opinions. Please seek out proper protocols from your providers as we ensue this conversation for your specific needs and health. But let's just deal with it. I was going to get into the whole things of pillars of public health, but we don't have a lot of time. But one of the things about public health, which is what I actually have been in the past 20 plus years, and I'm only 20 plus years old. Okay, no, I am not, but that's okay. What we deal with in public health is epidemiology. And as an epidemiologist, one of the things that I have to talk about is not, and you've already heard Leilani talk about the numbers, and so she's done that, but that's what epidemiologist does. But one of the things we want to do is hone in on where we are with this infectious disease. And the one thing I want your eyes to see on this slide, besides all the other writing, is that, you know what, we've had over 20 pandemics before, meaning this is worldwide, this is not new. We've had smallpox, polio, cholera, flu, yellow fever, H1N1, as you know that, the swine flu, HIV, and the AIDS, Ebola, Zika, and now we're dealing with SARS, MERS, and COVID is just another iteration of that. Why do I bring that out? Because this is what we deal with in epidemiology. Now everybody want to talk to us. Before now, it's like you all didn't know who we were, but we have to deal with that. And when people bring me on, your favorite community epidemiologist, Sista Yaa, people bring me on is to really talk about this whole aspect of COVID-19 and what we're doing globally, U.S., and of course CDC, John Hopkins does the tracker that you all see, but this is a pandemic. So just so if you're not clear, COVID-19 was because it was 2019. It is the coronavirus, and it was really a severe acute respiratory syndrome that we call SARS, but this is version 2. So why is that important? Because of mutations, and I haven't even gotten into what those mutations, but real quick, she wants you all to see some of these numbers. Again, the number cases are, you can get this at the dashboard, the City of Chicago. Just type in City of Chicago COVID. It'll come up. You don't even have to think. But more importantly, numbers are going up. Had gone up a little bit, but 156 cases, as you can see here. But realistically, the hospital rates have gone down. Death rates have gone down slightly. And that's what we want to talk about. And more importantly, when we get at, you can't see it at the bottom, but positivity rates, it has not gone up very much. So we're doing okay. We're not as high as we were about 5 months ago, 6 months. You can see those trajectories at the bottom right-hand side. You can see the numbers lower. And what you really just need to conceptualize is positivity rates aren't high, meaning that for all the people that test, not many people are testing positive for COVID. So that's a good thing. we can pause a little bit here and get into this a little bit more about what's happening in the Black community. But if you wanted to to us having a dialogue, when you hear all those numbers, right? People's minds are really fixated on the numbers, and I have to tell y'all that's a little bit. You have to be contextualized, because if I had 10 people, what's 50% of 10? 5. But is 5 people a lot?
Yeah, no.
So when we say those percentages, when we talk about rates, when we're talking about ratios, we have to be contextualized in how we're comparing them. But let's just say overall, in the city of Chicago, the numbers have gone down as far as positive cases. And even among blacks, although the numbers have gone down, death rates have gone down, blacks still lead in the number of deaths, as you just read that.
Yeah.
So having it contextualized is we really want to get at where the hardest hitting communities are. Hard hitting as in, we call that prevalence rates, or we could say incidence, the number of new cases, and what's more important, death case.
Yeah.
Because why? We don't want anybody to die. Now, how we get there, we don't know, but we don't want you to die from this disease.
No.
Now, like, we're clear. Sista Yaa has always told you that death is promised to us all, but it's how that happens and when it happens. So we want your life expectancy to be long, even though you go through a lot. But how do we keep that going? Better health care and wealth. And so, did you want to insert a little bit more on how we're going to focus this today?
Yeah, so we will be talking about how COVID-19 has been affecting the Black communities in Chicago, and Sista Yaa covered some of it. Can you tell us a little bit more how the current pandemic has disproportionately affected our Black communities here in Chicago?
Yes. So as you already heard, the benchmark that we're using, or if you want to call it the data point, if you want to say that, is death. So when you look at death cases that's specific around COVID, you find that blacks have the higher proportion of those numbers.
Yes.
And that's what makes it very difficult. So one of the things we have to think about in the Black community is how have blacks been treated historically. And, you know, there's a saying that a system that was built to fail you will not heal you.
I agree.
So if this system in this country was not built to, that was built to fail us, we look to this system to heal us, it's not happening. And COVID is really showing that blaringly. Health inequities have always been here. But now people are looking at that and going, wow, I didn't know it was that bad. Well, black people knew. We've always known how bad
for
it's
a
been.
long time.
Let me be clear. It's not even your education level. You can have a PhD and you still make less money. Your wealth is not as much as compared to whites, and more importantly, neither is your health. So if it's not the status of your education, it's not your income, it's not all those social determinants, your housing, your support system, what is it? Honey, it's racism. Let's call it out for what it is. So that takes me to my another point of, we were talking about, we use this term medical apartheid, and this is the reason that I bring this up. Dr. Harriet Washington, or I'm not sure she got a doctorate yet, but she is a medical ethicist, and she wrote this book called Medical Apartheid, and I promote it only because she does a chronological construct of racism in the medical field here in United States, period. I mean, of course, around the world, but specifically United States. There's the evidence. We don't have to go any further than this book, but I do want you to read other books, because medical racism is the new apartheid written by a different person. But again, they did the same things. It's a whole different author, but the point of it is that actually it's a video and documentary. But really what they do is they identify where medical racism has taken place. So why is this important? Because this is the undercurrent for why the numbers are so big in the Black community. As is above, so is below. And that is an old ancient African symbol for those who didn't know. Honey, I speak code. And this code is actually to tell African people, as you can see, that you have to look at the solution. So, we deal with health equity, and then I'll let you insert from here. But if your eyes can just see the picture on the left side, right? You see those bikes at the top, the first one, that's equality. You give everybody the same bike, they ride it. But if you're tall, if you're disabled or challenged, or if you're small, that bike may not fit you. But health equity is having the right bike for you to go forward. I love this one better than the other pictures we get of health equity. And the real reason I like this one is because it shows that you need the right bike for the right person to what? Move forward. There we go.
Perfect.
So as you can see, our solution to the pandemic of racism is health equity.
Agreed. So let's talk about medical mistrust and the role it plays also besides racism.
Yes. Okay, so let's just jump on the hardest part. When people say medical mistrust, right, they're really referring to blacks and others, but definitely black people. And there are our cultural others, and so-called Kaiser did a study of blacks. They did a study with Republicans, white Republicans. They did a study with Democrats, and they did all these constructs. And it was actually odd, but not surprising. Blacks and white Republicans had similar ideas about testing and vaccines and the whole system, but we have a different approach. So where white Republicans are more political, and we've seen what happened. You know, they'll jump the gate. But black people have to protest differently, and we have to move differently. Because had we done what they did at the Capitol, we wouldn't be talking about this. Because it'd have been a whole nother move. But at the same time, what I'm really bringing up to you is concept was the same. I don't want to deal with this system. And we talk about that medical mistrust, like the book I showed you earlier, because we've experienced that xenophobic behavior. We've experienced that racism and discrimination. We've experienced being, surgically tried upon and demonstrated upon and violated over and over again. That trauma, that traumatic experiences goes from generation to generation, and we actually call that epigenetics. That's another field of study in epidemiology, but that I can't deal with that right now. But just know that it is a transference of feelings, trauma over time, and we both know trauma is what? Real. So your distrust construct comes from not just testing, because people are testing, but it's actually coming from when we talk about vaccines hesitancy. And we're hesitant. Some people are hesitant because they're trying to say, well, I'm not sure if it's going to work. I don't want to be a guinea pig. And then there's the ones that's like, no, I'm not hesitant. It's a no. It's an absolute no. I don't care what you say. Nothing you can tell me is going to convince me to take your quote unquote vaccine. That's real. And we in the public health arena and communications and with Equal Hope and everything that we're pushing to make people better, we have to meet people where they're at, because they're not wrong. They are absolutely correct, and we have to give them that acknowledgement. We have to support their concept of I don't trust the system.
And what about misinformation and that role?
Yes, honey. It's so much out there. Even I'm taken aback. I can't do the Facebook thing. I'm sorry, y'all. I just didn't come from that era, and I do try. Everybody want me to get on Instagram. I can't do all that. I can't do all the social media and think and read too. I still read books, by the way, and I just got published in another journal, so I can't have time for all that. But what I will say is misinformation is really promoted and pushed because of people's what? Fear. Fear is false evidence of things appearing real. And the reason I say false is because you buy into something that you think you should be fearful of. But if you're truly grounded, you don't have no fear. You walk in confidence and right order. And that's how you can tell the difference. And then what? You do the best you can with what you know until you know something better. So this is what Equal Hope is all about, and Me Too, in text. We want to continue to have dialogue, discussion. I don't want you to believe everything I said. I want you to discuss things. There are concepts, constructs. Yes, I may have a little bit more of the science, okay, because that's what I do professionally. But I also am just like you all. I am just like you in the sense that I have the same trepidations and concerns for what is being said and what is fact and what is evidence-based. So I don't just use numbers, though. I use common sense with a little bit of intuition and a whole lot of spirit. So that's what I try to do with misinformation.
And also long haul. Let's talk about long haul. So for people who aren't familiar with long haul, it's pretty much the symptoms that develop after you recover from COVID. It can last weeks, months, and symptoms include fatigue, cold-like symptoms. So let's talk about long haul COVID, because you were just telling me about that before the show.
Yes. So we had a wonderful discussion, but let me get right into it. She gave a wonderful definition of long haul, but the true definition now is from 3 months to a year of having COVID. So you've been diagnosed and you've had it past 3 months. So under 3 months is not considered long haul. Past 3 months up to now a year is considered long haul if you were diagnosed. So the first thing is you have to be tested and diagnosed. So you could have had COVID and nobody knows it's long haul because you're not tested or diagnosed. So that's first. And it just so happened that the National Academy of Science, Engineering, and Medicine did a 2-day conference on long haul COVID, which I participated in. And so one of the things that they make sure is first is time, and of course diagnosis COVID, and then more importantly, there was no one biomarker measurement or metrics that they could all agree upon. I mean, when I say all, that means CDC, WHO, all the public health infrastructure. And why is that important? It's important because in order to think about long haul is diagnosis, is being able to capture the syndromes that go with it. The most leading syndrome is actually fatigue, followed by heart complications, and then of course there's a whole host of things that come. But what I was able to learn and garner is that most of these same symptoms, if you will, signs is what you see, symptoms is what you feel. Most of these symptoms that are happening with the fatigue, shortness of breath, heart complications, lung complications, obviously respiratory, asthma, all of that's there, actually happens with all infectious disease viruses. So any virus, even with HIV, I heard you talk about HPV, which is human papillomavirus virus. Some of these viruses can have the same exact signs, quote unquote, symptoms as COVID because of it's a virus that's attacking the body. What's unique about COVID though is that it can attack all organs. Like HPV is really a virus that attacks the genitalia, specifically in women's uterus, It can happen to men, but but it's still genitalia, right? When you talk about hepatitis, it's what?
Your liver.
So HIV is what? Immune system. Yeah. So most viruses attack a specific part of the body. That's why it's called that. CMV, cytomegalovirus virus. Okay, some of these things are in my head. That attacks the brain. So interesting about COVID, it can attack all organs. That's unusual. Most viruses have a place that they like to go and live. A targeted spot. So that's what makes long haul so difficult, because it is having an impact on the brain. It is having an impact on people's heart. It is having an impact on other parts of their body, obviously their lungs, respiratory, things of that nature, but it's not always the same for each person. So diagnosis and metrics is powerful because it's not out there. And what makes this even more insidious is that people are suffering from long haul, but they're not talking about it. They're not getting a diagnosis for it. And that means their disability is being challenged because they're trying to go to work or they're trying to have a normalized life. Right.
Get on with life. Yeah. They can't.
And you're looking at them like, well, get over it. And they're sitting there brain fog. That's another one.
Brain fog, yeah.
And what's wrong with you? They've had COVID, and they are right. It is true. Brain fog is true. That's not a made-up thing. In other words, the virus is still replicating in their body, and the brain is not functioning properly. But you can't see it from the outside. So when they're a little off and they're not moving right, you're like, get it together. And they're like, I'm trying to, but I can't.
But they really can't.
That's long haul, and you all, this is happening worldwide. I was on that call with people from WHO, from people from the UK, and of course people here in the United States. And it was fascinating to learn and to hear some of the stories of people who are really challenged. And we're talking about people who were actually fit at one time. Marathon runners, honey. I mean, like, could run miles, can't even walk a block now. So it's not, COVID is real. So given the time that's really passing us by, I'd like to talk a little bit more at the end about treatment.
I was just going to ask you about treatment. So what are some updates about the treatment options for people who have COVID? And is there a way to cure long COVID? Like, what can people do for themselves?
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit. First and foremost, there is no cure for COVID. There's only treatment. Now, there's the people that are vaccinated with a booster. They call that fully vaccinated, and if you have the first booster and done, it's called updated. I just learned that, but whatever term they put on it, you're fully vaccinated means the 2 dose for the most part, and then a booster. Those people. Then you have another group of people that are partially vaccinated. It means you only received 1, you never finished your series, and you're not boosted. And then there's the non-vaccinated people. You know, they didn't receive no vaccine, none. But all of them have to come together and be tested because guess what? Vaccinated people can still get COVID. Unfortunately, I am dealing with people, even in my public health arena, who feel like vaccinated people can't spread it, and that's not true because now, if you can get it, you can spread it. Period, point blank. But they don't think that that's true, and I'm like, that means you have people who are asymptomatic, have COVID, and they're sitting around spreading it to people who aren't vaccinated, and now they're getting it, and they're the ones that become worse off. So the metrics have been shown that people who get treated early, let's say within the 5 days of their diagnosis from COVID, you've been tested. I said tested, right? Everybody's got a test. You get into this bottleneck and you say, now I got COVID. Get that treatment. And the reason, I'm not a big proponent of always pushing drugs or anything, but I don't want to say the name wrong, so you might have to help me out.
Is it Plaquenil? Or
Plaquenil is one, but Plaxivir, y'all look it up, starts with a P. Plaxivir, you could just Google it. It come up. Monoclonal antibody treatments. That's all you need to know. Did I say that too fast? Okay. Monoclonal antibody treatments. All of those treatments are just like with the construct of the vaccine to boost the immune system, fight the virus off. And there are several types, and I do apologize that I can't keep every type in my head, but I know how to figure it out and Google treatment for COVID, and it'll come up. And these treatments are to help you try to eradicate that virus out of your body, which is what you would call a functional cure. But even if it's not totally, it's what? To first of all, prevent death. Let's always start with the end result is death. That's end. And then we want to move to the other side, which is not hospitalized, but it can still happen. And then we want to move to the other side, which is really just at home. You took your monoclonal antibody treatments and you were fine in less than 5 days. No symptoms, no signs, and no long haul. And that's what they're now promoting. That is now out. I'm encouraging anyone who hears this, if you test, please test. I don't care if you're vaccinated. You still do need to get a test because you can get COVID and actually not know it because of asymptomatics. That means, in other words, you don't feel nothing, you don't see nothing, you don't think you have it, and you would have it, and we spreading it. But that's why testing is so important, and I'm not here for the naysayers. PCR testing has been done for other viruses, so I have to discount the naysayers. PCR testing is actually done most, generally you hear about it in HIV, but it's mostly done with all viruses. There's a specific genome that's a it's genetics, you all. So the PCR testing is good. The bottom line is we need to get that treatment, and this is what I really wanted to share with our hostess here. We want to promote people, if you get tested and you are positive, please go seek treatment early. And this is the reason why. It has been shown that people who get earlier treatment, as in anything else, just like cancer, just like HIV, just like all the other ailments, if you get treated earlier, you have less, quote unquote, less side effects, less, I can't say side effects, but I can say less impact from the virus. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Health outcomes will be better if you are treated early.
There it is.
Okay, can you tell us where someone can get some testing kits and what the options are available? And also for treatment. Is it over the counter? Do they need to see a doctor? How does that work, Sista Yaa?
Wonderful question. So let's deal with how do you get treatment? Obviously, they're going to tell you to go to your provider. This is treatment. So you are not on the corner trying to score no... Y'all, my people, we can't be on the corner trying to find. I got that Plaxivir. I got that. We can't do that.
Special P.
Right. Ooh, there she goes. I got that special P. Get this treatment. No, you really do need to see your provider because these are drugs. These are pharmaceutical drugs, and you need to be monitored for any of that. I cannot be in right conscience and tell you to take somebody else's. You have to know where you stand specifically for your body. So that's first and foremost. But we are saying you can go to Walgreens, CVS's, and all these other, what they are. They're not in the black community that much, but you can go to them and then ask for the treatment. And if they need to, they can either help you see a pharmacist or you do need to go to your doctor. So that's first and foremost. The other thing is we're asking people is the testing is really where you talk to people, where else can I go? But I have to be honest that because these are pharmaceutical drugs, that you have to have the only way to get to it is through a provider. And we are asking all communities, black and brown communities, mostly people of color communities, please get you what we call a house or a place where you are comfortable with your health care. And if you're not comfortable with getting care from a certain place or a certain doctor, fire them, honey, and find somewhere that cares about you. If they're not healing you, they are killing you. Move on. Find somebody, get a house, a home, what we call a health care plan. I have to promote the health care plan. And the real reason for that is because it does you better for somebody to know you over time so they can see the differences in you.
In your health. Yeah. And your family too, if you bring your kids with you, your husband with you.
A family that prays together, families get health together or stay healthy together, a family can be together in their pursuit of better health outcomes, health and wellness.
So, any advice on how we can get through this pandemic? How can everything be normal again?
I will leave you. We're down to a couple of minutes, but we'll just show this right quick. Self-health care action plan. Spiritual practices first. I know you're saying, what? She's a scientist. You're right. But see, honey, I'm a scientist of the universe, not just a man. So I know that spiritual practice is first. It has to be, because all is of the Most High. That which created the sun created us, and everything else is secondary. But of course, food is medicine. I give a shout out to my colleagues for that one. Immune building activities, exercise. We know these things. If you're into getting a vaccine, get it. If you're not, natural immunity. Build up that immune system. Health and wellness, of course, social distance, wearing your mask, learning about science, laws of nature, and other healing modalities. I'm not going to get into why life expectancy is important. This is the book that I helped to co-author, The State of Health for Blacks in Chicago. If you want more information, contact Equal Hope, and they'll tell you how to get it. But it is online. But our call to action is, we're not saying acknowledge racism anymore. We're saying dismantle it. You need to get rid of it. And the mayor took the book and she called healthcare racism as a healthcare crisis because of our book. So we are doing our best to move forward, and these are all clinical trial groups. And I just want to leave you all with this, honey. I done kissed the Sphinx in the sun. I've been kissed by the sun, and I kissed the Sphinx. And so what we want to leave you all with is, you can be grand too. As above, so is below. We can work this out together.
Yes. Sista Yaa, thank you so much for being here today.
Yes.
Such a great discussion, and thank you for updating us on COVID-19 and what we all can do, especially the Black and brown communities, in helping fight this pandemic. Don't forget to check us out, equalhope.org. We are on CAN TV every fourth Tuesday of the month from 5 to 5:30. Please tune in next month. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Support Can TV.